Hello, everybody. My name is Kim Hughes. I am the librarian at the West Campus. Welcome to Research Thursdays. Today, I am talking about some of the resources that the library has on the humanities. And I'm actually going to start not in our databases, but with the humanities libguide. So the two things we're going to do, if you are following along, that's great. Hands-on interaction is always the best way to learn these things. We are starting at the college's main website, www.mdc.edu. When you hover over the main menu bar and you go to the word academics, should have popped up. There should be a hover down menu. We are selecting, there it goes, a little delayed. We are selecting libraries. From libraries, it should bring up a page that looks essentially like this. Today, we're going to cover two of these areas. One is going to be databases, and the other we're starting with our libguide. So I did make a QR code if that's easier, if you want to put this on your phone. If not, I have dropped the link into the chat. You can go to this directly. And after that, we're going to go to some of the databases, which can also be accessed from the libguide. So again, another QR code. I did put this one in the chat as well. And then the three databases that we're going to talk about are EBSCO with the Humanities source, as well as JSTOR and ARTSTOR. So I'm going to just start with a few little tips for searching databases in general, because it'll help us when we go into EBSCO. It'll help us when we go into JSTOR for certain, because that one we get to do a little bit more. But librarians are special. We use keywords. If you go to Google, you can put in a question. You can put in any words you want. You can basically put in anything. They have their own algorithms. They extract the keywords and they create search results. Databases only want keywords. And so the way you create a query, something sophisticated, is by using Boolean. And we have three different terms that we use: and, or, not. And any of our search queries, what we're asking for our results to bring back, are made through these three words. So for example, if I put in art history into any database, that is a subject, that is top level. I'm going to get hundreds of thousands of results depending on what I am searching. So I need to narrow that. And the way I narrow that is by using some additional keywords. Maybe I'm looking for a specific art style. And so I put in art history and Renaissance. I'm going to get back fewer results. I'm still going to get back too many. Maybe I'm looking for a specific location: art history and Renaissance and Venice. Getting a little bit better. Every time I add the word and, I am getting fewer and fewer results because I'm making my topic from a subject to something more narrow. So I use, this is a generic PowerPoint I kind of based it on, but car maintenance, tires and brakes, and to make it more specific, and car manufacturer, and years, and type of car. Every time I add and, it's going to bring back fewer, more specific results. For those of you who like math, I was a history major for a reason. We'll say that art history is our kind of bubble and Renaissance is another bubble. And when you put them together and you get your nice little Venn diagram, only the results in the middle that have both of those keywords are going to be returned. So or does the opposite. If I were to put in art history or Renaissance, anything that had art history and anything that had Renaissance would all be returned. This is sometimes helpful for synonyms. If there are multiple words that mean the same thing and you're not quite sure how the author is going to use that word, this is where we can start creating or, college or university. So one is going to limit, the other is going to expand our search, and not excludes it. So again, with our Venn diagrams, and must have both, or is going to be either, and not means it is not returned. This is going to be helpful to us, which is why I know I did it briefly, but any questions about that? Kind of makes sense intuitively, I hope. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. Okay, so this is the Humanities LibGuide that was created essentially as the central place for resources, both that we have at the college and some that are on the internet that are a little bit more reliable. So things that we could recommend saying, yes, we trust this because X, Y, and Z. So the welcome page is going to have some general information about our libraries, times that we're opened, the programs that are offered in the humanities. If you click on this, it'll open up another window and it'll take you to some of the programs. I also gave some of the other LibGuides that fall within the humanities a little bit more specific in case you are looking for them. Nice little intro video on what the humanities actually are with a very proper British accent from Oxford, and then some general humanities websites, things that I think are either really helpful or very cool. So for example, if you have not been to the art page for Google, they have worked with museums across the world, and they have created basically virtual museums. Some of them you can zoom down into individual pixels on paintings that they have photographed in 4K beyond. So things like that. The Stanford Humanities Center, they maintain one of the encyclopedias for the humanities. And so any kind of term, if you had a question about it, some of the councils, etc., that exist for the humanities as well. And then at the top, through the main menu, these are some of the things that the college has specifically. So we definitely have an excellent collection for the humanities at each of our campuses. And if you were looking for something specific, you could search the library catalog. There's a little video on how to do that. And here are some of the newer books. It's on a scrolling carousel, but some of the new books that we just recently purchased. Books have been coming in since January across all campuses. So if you're looking to see, what's the newest, latest, and greatest, this is where you can find them. If you're looking for digital books, so our ebook collections, I've made links to those on the right-hand side, and you can see some of them are pretty varied. These are not specific to the humanities. These are simply the ebooks that we have on campus. And I highly recommend everything that is here for research purposes. If you're looking for films and videos, again, this is not specific, the DVD selection search, not specific to humanities, but it is specific to DVDs. So if you were looking for whether we have a film or a documentary, you could put the name in here and it will search across our catalog. Streaming video services, we definitely have. And a few, if you are unfamiliar with Canopy, I would highly recommend going into this. So anything that would be considered an art film, this is where you will find access. It's like Netflix streaming service, but it is free with your MDC login and credentials. So Academy Award winners, international films, documentaries, etc. And Swank, I like to joke, is kind of the Netflix if it had existed in the 1990s. So some of the films are a little bit older, but they're kind of cult classics, if you will. So again, we have a number of for entertainment and films on demand for documentaries and little bitty clips. I also gave some internet series. Again, I'm a big fan of John Green and Crash Course, so I gave some of his, and these are the links to the main page for each of those courses, but I tried to stick within the humanities, which is why it's limited. He's got a lot more if you're interested. Some of the other nice things that exist as well, either through MOOCs, which are very large, massive online, public, free TED Talks, and this will take you to the main page for art history. And then we get to databases, and we're going to look through a few of these in a minute. OER resources are open education resources. These are textbooks that exist. They are free to use. They are meant for classes, and again, they are divided by the class itself. Generally, these are for the introduction class, so Introduction to Humanities, for example, but here are two 100% free. Humanities Edge, if you are not aware, there's a symposium at MDC. Generally, I believe it's in September, October, it's towards the end of the year. And these are past posters and presentations, some of the documents that came out of past years. And that'll open up another window for you. And then some of the subject specific. So what I did is I included some of the new new books that we received starting earlier this year on individual subjects, some of the journals that are specific to these subjects, and then some websites. And you'll see, again, all the different subjects up at the top. The ones with the little arrow, they actually have their own libguides in their totality. So history is going to open up to another, philosophy, religion, etc. And then literature, there are a number, as you can imagine, of different libguides. So this will have links to many of those as well. So before I get into databases, are there any questions on the libguide, how to use it, what's included? Need me to go through anything on any of the other specific pages? But I set them up exactly the same way. Books, journals, websites, databases. So far, it's been all me talking. So questions, problems, concerns? We're all good? All right. Then from databases, what I did is I included a link to the humanities databases that I think are most relevant to the overall. If there are specific databases that go with any subject, I did put them within. So fine arts will have arts databases in addition to the journals, etc. But the databases here are the overall. So you can see arts in architecture, ARTSTOR, Flipster, humanities, full text. So we're actually going to start with the humanities full text. This is one by EBSCO. And you will need, if you are logging in from off campus, your MDC credentials. So generally your email and your password. And this is why I spent a couple minutes talking about keywords, because databases like keywords. And this and or not, those are our Boolean functions. So I did not prepare anything, any specific search, because I always like audience participation, and I've been talking for 15 minutes. So hit me. What are your interests? What are you hoping to find? How can we explore? Give me something big and we can whittle it down. Give me something small and we'll see what there is. Suggestions, keywords, hit me. Throw it in the chat, take yourself off mute, put yourself on camera. Egypt, all right. Anyone want to guess how many things we're going to get back? Here's why I like databases, because they're a little bit intuitive. They say, do you mean? And then they give me a list. Do I mean Egypt? Egyptian culture. Here's mythology, pyramids, religion, art. So, Felix, do you have a preference?
Mythology.
All right. So, oh, when I hit the M, mummification. Nice. All right, so Egypt, myth. I'm going to hit search. And we're going to start with 39. To me, a good search is anywhere between 30 and 50. I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to be above 50, and I don't like being below 30 because I might not find what I'm looking for. This one actually said your initial search did not result in anything. That's not possible. Egyptian mythology or Egypt. And here it gives me some or statements. Do you mean Egyptian mythology or ancient Egypt or ancient Egyptian? Yeah, let's try that because that'll give me, hopefully, now I have 1100. That's more like it. So Egypt mythology. And if you are not familiar with searching, searching is both an art and a science. Sometimes you just have to kind of play with it a little and see what you get. But Egyptian mythology, we're starting with 1100. Here's what I like about EBSCO. They are very clear about what my options are for types of resources they're giving me. So am I looking for magazines, something either a little bit more pop culture or general readership? Am I looking for academic articles? So if you're looking for a class and for research, are you looking for reviews? So you want to see what books have been published about Egyptian mythology and you want to read the reviews of those. I also like the way they do their publication date. So the oldest thing in their database for Egyptian mythology is 1983, which depending on what I'm looking for may be helpful, may not be helpful. I generally use 5 years as a very, very general rule. The humanities, it totally depends on what you're looking for, because just because it's older in the humanities does not mean it's not still valid. If this were science, medicine, technology, we're talking 1 to 3 years. But the humanities, I did a master's degree in history, and most of my sources were very old. Not even the primary sources. I did a cult organization in America in the 1840s, and a lot of the things written about them, secondary sources, were from the 1870s, 1880s. So limiting to the last 5 years, I would have had nothing. What I do want is full text. Anybody know what it means to have the limiter to full text and why it's important? This is always step 1. Guesses, full text? It's got the actual item. Perfect. If I didn't have full text, some of these might be abstracts only. Some of them might have paywalls. Some of them might just be citations. Have you thought about this? Yeah, I've thought about it and I want to read it. So where is it? So full text is always step 1. And we lost about 250 of these items. So they were either abstracts only or citations. Now I still have 900, which to me is a little bit too much. So at this point, I start to limit. And there are a number of different ways I can do this. One is by looking at the source type. And depending on what I was doing with this for my own personal needs, am I doing this for a paper? Do I need academic, or am I looking more for Smithsonian type magazine? Am I looking for National Geographic? Because those will come up in database searches. But for our purposes, we're going to select academic journals. And now I'm down to 439. And there are still ways I can limit it. The oldest one is still 1983. I could say, well, let's see what is more recent. And for more recent, I'm going to use the last 10 years. I'm going to put in 2013, and I'm going to see what happens. Now I'm down to 61. So in the last 10 years, 61 journal articles have been written about Egyptian mythology. At this point, I can start to read some of the titles. I can click on one and look at the abstract. What I love about EBSCO is they make it very, very simple to go to the next. And this is why I like to be between 30 and 50, because I can read 30 abstracts. The abstract is the summary. It's 150 to 200 words, and I can click through reading only the abstract. And in this one, I really like it because you can see how often the words are highlighted in the abstract. I really don't see mythology. So I might think, that's not what I want. And I go to the next one. Once I find one that I like, databases are wonderful for all the options that you have. Let's see. We've got to move some things out. On the right-hand side, you can see I can save this to my Google Drive. I can save it to my OneDrive. I can email it to myself, print. I can save it or download it to my computer. And most importantly, I can cite it. By clicking on this, I get all of the different citation types so that I can go to whatever is most appropriate for my class, MLA, APA. It even tells you what the name of it is, works cited. I can highlight it, copy it, and paste it directly into my works cited page. If I'm using APA, I can highlight it, copy it, and paste it directly into my references. And if I want it in PDF, I can click on that and download it myself with the right tools on whatever computer or iPad, etc. you're using. You can highlight it on the screen with your PDF file, etc. Questions? Anybody else have a different term? Different search that we can do for our humanities? Our humanities search? Any art history people out there? I taught AP art history for 13 years. It's one of my great joys in life. And my area that I love is Baroque. Can't really say most people are fans of that style. Suggestions? Anyone have something they'd look to search for? The Medici. Okay. I lived in Florence for a year. I am well acquainted. So funny. They are not one of my presets. Interesting. Searching for Medici, 157. You would definitely expect it to be more. I still have it set to full text because I didn't do a new search. So all of my parameters are still there. I'm still looking at the last 10 years and I'm still looking at academic journal articles. So it did keep actually my academic journals are 37. Ooh. But that fits nicely within my parameters. Maybe not everybody else's. I wonder if I take off.
Maybe give it more time.
Yeah, that's
going back
if
in time.
If I put in 1900, now I have 177. And the oldest one is still 1985. Again, I could continue to add terms to it. That is another way to limit using Boolean. So if I was looking for the Medici family and, oh, let's put in Botticelli. I don't know if they were a great sponsor of his, patron of the arts. 5. Five articles and 5, and that is too narrow. So I'd have to think or use a different database, etc. But does anybody have any questions on how to use EBSCO for the humanities? If not, I'm going back. This is the LibGuide again. And I'm going to click on ARTSTOR. ARTSTOR is going to work a little bit different than some of the traditional. I'm going to click OK for that. One, because ARTSTOR, if you are not familiar, has at this point a couple of million images. And when you use them from the database, if you are citing them, you can use them for educational purposes. You cannot take the images from here and use them for commercial purposes. They have copyrights on them still, etc. But if you are looking for high quality, high res images for printing, for posters, for putting into PowerPoint, or if you're just looking for things that are available, this is a wonderful. So there are different ways to search this. You can search it by their collections and you'll see. So again, I taught AP Art History. They make it very simple. AP Art History says, these are the images that you need to know. So if you click on it, they say, hey, here are the different areas and these are the images. And what that allows is, I'll pick, and you can see how incredibly detailed their, do I not have, okay, wait. There we go. So this is one of the manuscript pages from the Lindisfarne Gospel. So let's say you are using this and you want to show some of the incredibly detailed, let me see if I can even find it. There's a little mouse holding a Eucharist in this. Now, when you first look at it, you see all the patterns and there's various terms we use, but this is why you would use something like this. I can continue to magnify this to get those little teeny details. And I can keep going like this until I find the part I want, which is the little mouse with the Eucharist. And then I can download either the piece of it, or I can download, do screen captures, etc. But it is high res images, and all of their images are like this. You can see down to the very dot. So if you're looking for something like pointillism and you have ever wanted to see every single little dot of the paintings, then this is a wonderful place. So this is one way to do it. I simply went to collections and you can see all the different museums that have participated in here, all of the different items. So I'll go to the Baltimore Museum of Art. I don't know what they have included. My preference is European art. Oh, let's do from the Netherlands. And so again, I can see all the different images that are available to me and what I can do. Going into those little teeny details and saving them and citing them. Again, you have all of these to be used for educational purposes with the proper citation. You can, of course, also do browsing by various ways. So if you know you're looking for a specific museum, you can do it by the institution, etc. Or you can just search. So is there an image out there or a description of an image or something you want to see what they have? And we can use words like cat, We can use the names of specific styles. We can use the name of artists. We can basically search anything we want. And if we don't find it that way or need to limit it, we can do an advanced search, which notice and or not. Librarians really like their Boolean. And I will tell you that Google was made by librarians. So if you use your Boolean searching and or not in Google, you'll get better search results. All right, bust of Julius Caesar. Wasn't there just a article in the newspaper about they're now claiming there was a new one found and people are arguing over what Julius Caesar really looked like? Which one is the real one? So here are some of the various busts that have been identified. The strangest one, because I read the article, I don't remember, it was a couple of weeks ago. Time all blends into one for me at this point. It might have been a year ago. But the strangest one, they found a bust of Caesar in the Hudson River.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So do you have a preference for which one you're looking for? They did find 53 of them. And you can see a couple of them look the same. They are different material. The top row, second one in, that is marble, of course. And then the third row, fourth one in, that one looks the same as in bronze. A couple that I am not familiar with as being identified as Julius Caesar, but all of them. And you could see how specific our search could be. I could also try this taking out bust and see what happens if you're interested in Julius Caesar in general. So keep this in mind. We had a result of 53. If I take out bust, now I've got 1,453. So you did limit it by saying bust, and now you can see coins because, of course, that is how Roman emperors were identified many times by coinage because they had unique profiles. And then you can see Moliere as Julius Caesar. Okay. That's also like the Sun King. He liked to have himself done as various people in history as well. And then there's some actual, so some of the things that were financed by Julius Caesar. That's interesting as well, of course. He's the one who gave us the gladiator games, not the Colosseum, but the gladiator games. Take people's minds off of the fact that they have no grain by giving them bloody sport. So you could see the difference in the search and how high tech you could get. And I'm sure doing an advanced search and putting in either keywords, maybe you're looking for a particular either material, maybe you want to limit it by size. You're looking for things that are over a certain bust as compared to statue or sculpture. So I'm going to do the same thing I did in the other. I'm going to pick this one, which is not his finest look. And I would be able to get all the information I need. There's my description of it. And then it tells me where it actually lives. So if I want to go see this in person, unfortunately, I have to go to Berlin. So the closest I'm going to get to this anytime soon is this image on the screen. And the eyes are always weird to me but we do have the intense realism. Questions. Is ARTSTOR what you thought it would be? Is it more interesting, less interesting? The thing I do like about these is notice at the top, it says welcome K Hughes. That's because I have set up an account. Using my MDC credentials, I set it up so that I can save these, and any computer I log onto this, I can absolutely log in and I'll have access to basically my own personal collection of images. So looking at things the same way you can download them, and I could absolutely download them individually to my computer or email them the same ways that the other databases have. But if I wanted to just keep things, I can make folders. It is very nice. And ARTSTOR and JSTOR are made by the same company, and JSTOR does that as well. So I'm going to click on one of the coins. I'll do the one in the middle. And again, these are where it does get very nice for looking at details, because the image that you're looking at is so much larger than the actual coin is, which we know is pretty small. And if you didn't know it was pretty small, you could go to the descriptive information and it should be there. Usually size is included for works of art. And then who owns it, where you can find it in person. Add it. Notice I can add a group. Those are my own personal. I can cite it and all the other things I ever wanted to do to it. And again, if I wanted to just look at everything within my search, I can just go click, 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 which is one of the things I really appreciate about databases. Rather than having to go back, I keep navigating to this back to results. But if I wanted to just look at them one after the other, it's very simple to do that. I'm going to go back to browse, and you can see groups and personal collections. Those are things that would be in my personal folders, and I don't have anything saved. But public collections. So these are all of the public entities that have collections. I do love a illuminated manuscript. I know a lot of people don't, but I very much appreciate it. And I like the jokes about it. Oh man, I made a mistake on page 42. So books of hours, which were essentially prayer books, tell you a lot about the society they were made in. Again, all the fine little details that you get. And notice over on the descriptive side, it does have this place for measurement. So it does tell you the size of it. This one, let's all go to Paris and go see it in person. Date, description, etc. Questions about ARTSTOR? Anything else you want to see in ARTSTOR? I'm going to click on Advanced Search, and I'm going to, sure beats a slide, yes. If you are looking for something more interactive, I highly recommend Google Culture. I did have the link. You could Google it, of course, haha. But I do have the link on the Humanities LibGuide, and it is amazing. The things they have on there, the virtual tours of museums. You can also go, of course, on YouTube. And if you were looking for the 360 tours, some of those are highly impressive. Things like the Vatican. They've got one that's just absolutely amazing. So if I did Julius Caesar here in any field, and I did marble in any field, you can see I'm going to get 181. This is why I think ARTSTOR is so great for searching for images. It just makes it incredibly easy. And notice in the box, there is my Boolean. It did it for me, Julius Caesar and marble. So 181. We know when we did bust, we had 53. We wouldn't know when we did just Julius Caesar, we had 1150. And putting in just one limiter gave us the much more specific. And you can see a lot of these are architecture because they were financed by. So that's how they get kind of like that, the Venn diagram of both terms being included. So I am going back to my databases, and the last one I'm going to talk about is JSTOR. And to be perfectly honest, I would not have gotten through my master's thesis without JSTOR. I think it is wonderful. I go to it first and foremost whenever I do anything that is history related. It searches through thousands of academic journals. Many of them are international, but this one you do have to do a little bit more work for because it searches so much. If you put in a general term, you're going to get tons of results. So you'll see what I mean just by starting to type. I'm going to put in Michelangelo because Who doesn't? I haven't even hit enter and it's told me there are 26,000 results. Yeah, so it starts to give you some suggestions immediately.
Wow.
Do you right? I like to be between 30 and 50. 26,000 is like, oh, no, thank you. So do you mean Michelangelo as an author or a creator? And creator, of course, does mean artist, but in this case, it probably means closer to author. Do I want that in the title? That might be one way to make sure that Michelangelo is included. Do I mean publication name? I don't know any publications named Michelangelo. So I'm going to say, let's put it in the title and see how many, but I still have 1.6 thousand. That's 1,600 is still a little bit more. So the way that JSTOR works is you start to limit. And I said sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. Notice up at the top what it has done. It has taken out some of the little abbreviations that special librarians use. So TI would be title. It's put it in parentheses, so it's only searching for that. But if we had Boolean, the rest of that would be inside that parentheses. If I did want to add Boolean, I could do this and then add other words. So I'm going to put Michelangelo and David, because that will help me limit, but it is a little bit more work sometimes with JSTOR. I think the results are worth it. So I have 276 results where Michelangelo and David are both in the title. So if I was looking for that specifically, that'd be a pretty good starting point. Then I can start to limit it in other ways, the same way I did in EBSCO, the same way I can in most databases, which is why we use databases. They are wonderful at helping us to refine our search and find the information we're looking for. So I want journals, but hey, images. Maybe I'm only looking for a quick image in 33 of them. So I'm assuming there are multiple perspectives of Michelangelo's David. 2 books with that in the title. This is where I can limit my date. So if I was looking for anything within the last however many years, I could do it here. And this is what I really like, subject. What they've done is they have shown you where these articles are coming from. So if you're looking at it through a lens, rather than I immediately think art history, but only 195 out of the 276 are about art history. You can see cultural studies, and I'm not sure what that would include. British studies, I'm really not sure what that would include. Feminist studies, I'm not sure how you get Michelangelo and David in a feminist perspective, but there is at least one article with that. Film studies, geography, you can see 51 focus on the history of it because it does have a long, rich history, certainly with the city of Florence, the meaning of David, etc. But for my purposes, I was thinking more art. So I can click on that and it starts to limit. You can also see language. So I'm going to limit by English and I'm going to go up. So we now have 175. I could continue to add additional terms if I wanted to, and that's what search within does. So here are all the articles that have Michelangelo and David in the title. These are all the articles that are journal articles in the field of art history in English. What do you want to do next? And so I could at this point add additional. Let's see if the Medici family are here, and I'm not sure. 123. That's still, it's beyond what I like. Again, I like to be in that 30 to 50. So I could continue to add terms. At this point, I could start to maybe limit the date. I could see what else I wanted, think about what I'm really looking for in order to make this a little bit more narrow. If I don't mind, or I start looking down and say, you know what, let's just see what's here. And I start looking. Oh, Michelangelo's Laocoon. So if you have been to the Uffizi, as luck would have it, they happened to find this phenomenal ancient piece, the Laocoon, and it was in pieces, literally. So they said to Michelangelo, hey, why don't you put this back together? And so he did. And art historians today are a little conflicted. So there are multiple different iterations of the way it's, especially the arm, whether it could have gone this way. So if you're not familiar with Laocoon, it's a fabulous piece, Greek Hellenistic. So you can see other works, things, and let's say this is the one I want because that looks fabulous. All the things that I can do in my other databases, I can do here as well. I can download it, I can save it, I can share it, I can print it. And most importantly, I keep saying most importantly, I can cite it. And you can see pretty easy. You just copy and paste it into your references or works cited page for whichever one. They also give you some other options if you have tools beyond. For example, I use Zotero for organizing my articles, but I'm a geeky librarian, so. Back to results. Questions? Anybody want me to do a search that I did not create? We can start all over and start from scratch. If not, those are the 3 databases I had in the libguide. So I will stick around for questions if there's something specific you're looking for.